Hello and welcome everybody. Hope you guys are doing fantastic. Can barely contain my excitement for today's presentation. To be honest with you, I was at a bit of a brain drain trying to figure out what was our next move after covering weather, and I was going through the 7110 and came upon chapter 4, great chapter, and found myself in holding, not a very long section. So I was like, man, this is awesome. It has procedures, phraseology, there's some strip marking related to the subject matter. Something like this would make a perfect tutorial. It was a great opportunity to rediscover some things that chapter and that section provides and enforces. So it's wonderful. So like I said, holding does not occur as much as weather, but it is a regularly occurring event, right? We deal with weather down here, sometimes weather in conjunction with holding. So there it is. There's that natural line of succession there. We deal with a lot of airports that are single runway operations, not just San Juan, but aircraft landing St. Croix, St. Thomas, Princess Juliana, VC Bird, St. Kitts. Those are all facilities that only have one runway. So sometimes when you need a disabled aircraft on a runway, holding is going to happen. So without further ado, let's get to a bulleted list. Let's cover what we're going to go over. Let's take track of our inventory and let's get there. All right, see you there. Today's bulleted list is hold your horses. I'm no equestrian, but believe me, the horses have to be stopped because those horses are aircraft that are going very, very fast and we need to find a place to put them. So what are we thinking? Immediately, you're stopping the forward progress of the aircraft, right? Sometimes called a paper stop. You are giving an aircraft a short range clearance, which usually will end in a hold, so it frees up time for the airport authority to clear the runway, which will be in these examples, or the weather to clear, or something to happen. Whatever the precipice behind the holding is, it gives us time to suspend those aircraft in air, short range clearance, while whatever needs to get figured out gets done. So our plans are get them in with a plan to get them out, right? We're going to introduce you to the concept of clearing aircraft into the hold, keeping in mind and preparing the flight crew, because this is very labor intensive for them, to have an end game, right? To have an exit plan, exit strategy. Phraseology, phraseology, phraseology. We'll cover it, we'll give you some choices, and we'll direct you to some examples that we may not cover today, right? We'll direct you to that chapter 4 and the holding section. I believe it's section 6. Strip marking, we'll go over some of that. That's always fun. Techniques and good practices, we'll cover those, try to address some things that will occur locally here at San Juan Center, and getting them where they want to go or might have to go, right? Good practices is if the delay becomes indefinite, it's always a good idea to know the aircraft's alternate airport and things like that. So without further ado, ready, set, jets, go. You are a holding pro, or you will be. So I will see you at the next slide. Okay. So here we are. We've been in this situation before, right? We're met at a very calm looking sector. We have two aircraft on frequency. Both are landing San Juan, JetBlue 733 and 1996. Both seem to have their Beano crossing restriction. All is well, all is calm until we are met with this general announcement. Maybe somebody taps on our shoulder or we get a call in our ear. Hold all aircraft landing San Juan runway 10 is closed and a disabled aircraft on runway 8. We'll get you an update ASAP. Okay, so that's all we know. So what do we know? Easy to take away from this, right? Very clearly put, both runways are not available at San Juan and we have to hold our inbounds for the disabled aircraft. So we don't really have a time to when this is possibly clears up, right? They have to get the aircraft off, maybe do a FOD check on the runway, etc., etc. All we know right now, our mission is to stop the forward progress of both the United 1996 and JetBlue 733. They cannot land the San Juan airport, so we have to prevent congestion in the terminal area. So us as en route controllers, we have to take care of that. So let's get at it, okay? Cool. Okay, so I think I know what you might be thinking, right? I'm no mind reader, but you might be panicking. You're like, hey, it's just a time to panic. I got a lot to do, right? Don't panic. We got this, right? You got this. Chapter 4, Section 6 has your back, right? So maybe you have a 7110 in front of you right now, go to that section, right? Because we're going to go over the broad strokes. Make the decision to issue instructions based on the situation at hand and the information available. Why do I say that? Because we may not know too much about what's going on in the San Juan airport on runway 8, right? but we know that it usually takes a while for aircraft to get towed or maybe under their own power to get off the runway end. There might need to be a sweep of the runway, a FOD check. So we're looking at um, an undetermined amount of time to deal with this issue, right? If this was a quick thing and we've been working a while, right? Maybe you've been certified a while, you have a couple of seasons under your belt, you can get a feel for it, right? And that hunch, that institutional knowledge is going to dictate or at least guide you in what your response and your announcement is going to be to both JetBlue and United 1996. So more on that in just a minute. Know your published holding fixes in your airspace. It is so much easier to clear aircraft to published holding fixes in your airspace because your frequency congestion is going to go lower and your transmission is going to be shorter. Okay, give me 5, son, right? You know, high five, we'll give you one of those two, but remember 5 minutes of notice. Chapter 4, section 6 is very clear. If you're going to have an aircraft enter hold with instructions provided by you, the controller, make sure you do it 5 minutes out prior to the fix you're going to hold them at. I think we addressed before, this is a labor-intensive activity for the flight crew. They have to get the aircraft configured, speed, altitude, get ready to turn the aircraft, maneuver the aircraft to enter the hold. If you remember from the academy or from your training, there's a whole bunch of different types of entries in the holding pattern, teardrops, straight, like I can't remember them all, but there are things for them to do. So give them at least 5 minutes. And that leads me to keep it simple, keep it concise, right? Make it simple for them. Paint the picture, right? You're looking at the scope. You have an idea of what you want to see in very slow motion, each aircraft being updated, hitting the fix and turning the way that you want them to at the leg length you want them to and all that good stuff. So paint that picture for them, right? Be proactive, right? Just like we did with weather. If you remember, we gave a weather call 121 miles out. Here, if we have the time, right, those aircraft are decently far away from the San Juan airport. We can find a fix for them to hold at and get them the holding instructions all way before 5 minutes prior to whatever fix we choose. Good job. A phrase that fits, right? Here's the simple one. If you know that you're sending the aircraft to a published holding fix, it's as simple as this. I promise you this. Cleared to Beano. We're going to use Beano in this example. Cleared to Beano intersection. Hold northwest is published. Expect further clearance at, time, and give them a time check. Okay. Very simple, right? So plug in, practice, but that's as simple as it gets if you're using published, holding fixes. Sequence, altitude by who has the sooner ETA, right? First come, first serve, right? You're going to have a holding stack, right? Maybe you're using 1 fix, maybe you're using 2, maybe you're using 3 fixes, but just remember, first come, first serve. Try to have whatever aircraft is closest to the ground in altitude and closest to the ETA by the current time, and you can't go wrong, right? First come, first serve. The guy or girl who showed up first, they go in first when it's time to let aircraft in. So they should be the lowest, right? They should be the closest to that approach configuration. They should be closest to approaches airspace, so it's easy. They just leave one by one because you don't want to have an aircraft suspended above maybe 2 or 3 other aircraft, and they were first, and you have to wait for them to leave the hold, get lateral separation from the holding pattern, and descend all that business to comply with first come, first served. Because you don't want an emergency or situation to occur or a minimum fuel situation to occur if you do not let the aircraft who's been holding longest in first. Okay, so just keep that in mind, right? Find somewhere to amend altitude, right? It may sound really weird when you're giving a clearance and the 7110 did not specify when you're giving the holding instructions where to stick that altitude amendment, right? Because chances are you gave Beano crossing restrictions, well, they may not be going to Beano no more, and they're definitely not going to Beano with the intention to go past that fix, right? So now you have to assign an altitude to maintain, or at least it's a good practice anyways. Talking right, so we'll cover that in the strip marking as well as the phraseology. So let's go back to the sector and take it aircraft by aircraft as we're known to do. And yeah, we're going to get through this. So here we go. Okay, so here we are back at the sector. We have both strips for the respective aircraft presented to you, ready to be marked up, right, as you make your clearance, right, talking right. Here's a technique. both of these aircraft, right, United 1996 and JetBlue 733, they're happy to be flying in the Caribbean. They're getting close to San Juan, right, ready for that quick turn, or maybe their flying day is done, right, something like that. And usually they don't expect holding in this part of the world because it's the Caribbean, home of beautiful weather and everything. So you don't want to blindside them, right? We have done many presentations where we have talked about limiting a pilot's exposure to complex, convoluted clearances, right? So this is no exception. So give them a little time to register, maybe a pen and pad, maybe one of the crew members has the pen and the pad or just listening while the other one flies and talks to you. So just do it like this. JetBlue 733 holding clearance, advise ready, right? First, advise ready, copy A, something like that. Ready to copy JetBlue 733. And here you go, right? Let's talk and write. We'll do it together. JetBlue 733, cleared to Beano intersection. Hold northwest as published. Expect further clearance at 1745. Time now 1717 and 1 corner. Min altitude. Maintain 1000. Perfect. Strip marking. H, right? Under our characters. Chapter 2. H for holding. We name the fix. Northwest. We omitted the direction of turn since it's a standard holding pattern, right, at Beano. I'm pretty sure all of the holding patterns in San Juan airspaces, I believe they are all standard with respect to turns, okay? We gave the EFC, the expect further clearance time of 1745. We gave a time check, and there we found an opportunity to say, hey, the Beano 11 and 250, right? Beano 1,250 knots, that's no longer void. Just maintain 1,000 now, and assuming you gave the altimeter already. Perfect. That's all of the information you needed. We could not have made that any shorter, right? Now, sure, there's a whole bunch of stuff that we could have packed in on the end of that, right? We could have discussed what was the reason for the holding, expect further routing, right? Expect further clearance, all that fun stuff. But we didn't, right? We just gave the bare minimum of what we needed, okay? So very good. Good job with that, right? In the spirit of good strategy, use a standard holding fix that has, a charted holding pattern here at San Juan. That'll make your life easier because you're just going to be doing that the whole time. But we're going to get a little crafty with 1996. So stand by for that. I'll see you at the next slide. Like I said, great job with that. Good job with JetBlue 733. Now, onwards and upwards to United 1996. For the sake of this example, let's change the fix to a non-published holding fix. I believe Idaho. We're going to use Idaho here. I don't think it has a holding pattern associated with it. If it does, well, don't worry. We're just going to give our own set of holding instructions, which will be very cool. You'll see. So, yet again, painting a simple picture. So, getting into the detailed holding instructions, if you move down along chapter 4, you'll find it there in section 6, and you'll just kind of mosey on down and find it. And here are some of the things that you have to specify. Direction of holding from the fixed waypoint, radial course, bearing, track, azimuth, or airway or route on which the aircraft is to hold. Okay, so direction, right? Tell them which way you want to go. So clear direct Idaho, hold direction, right, from the rate point, and then you can go onwards and describe it. They can hold on the radial, right? But look at how interesting this is. They can also hold on the airway, right? They can hold on an airway that emits from that fix. Leg length in miles or minutes, right? Minutes by pilot request. Direction of holding if left turns non-standard are to be used, right? Or by request, if they ask for just assurance which way you want them to hold, just make sure you confirm which way you want the aircraft to hold, right? Or I'm sorry, the direction of their turns rather. Let me clarify that. EFC and a time check, right? So we just have to paint just about everything, where the abbreviated stuff with using the published holding pattern fixes, that was a little easy. This is a little more complex, but that's the case, right? We're here in this little bubble of ours, a little experiment. So let's just do it, right? Because you're going to have to. There's not always going to be a published holding fix. Like we're talking about San Juan here, but if you're holding for other airports, you might have to find a fix that does not have published holding. So with that being said, let's move on. Perfect. Here we are back at the sector. We see JetBlue has all of the necessary information there. Now let's get to United 1996. United 1996 holding clearance advised when ready. United 1996 ready to copy. Ready? Here we go. United 1996 cleared to Idaho intersection. Hold southeast on Route 6, 20 mile legs. Expect further clearance 1745. Time now 1719 3/4. Amen altitude, maintain 2000. You would get that read back, right? You would mark the strip up accordingly. I'll help you out here a little bit. You see some of the holding stuff was populated. And we amend the altitude to 120, cross that out. Perfect. Look how that worked out, right? So what did we do? The aircraft's on Yankee 290. We didn't want to hold them over Beano for whatever reason, for sake of example. Now, there are other holding points that might have been made available to us, but this was a good example. We're going to take them off their filed route of flight and turn them towards Idaho. Idaho's on Route 6. Route 6 does occur in their flight plan after Beano. So it sets them up nicely anyways, using Idaho. And it was great for an illustrative purpose to use the phraseology when you clear an aircraft to affix, to hold, and you hold them on the radial that makes up the airway, right? The radial off Borinquen and San Juan that make up Idaho, you know what I mean? So it's good illustration here. So good job with that. You see the strip marking, right? Big H, right? The name of the fix, the direction. We did not specify the direction of turns because it's going to be standard. Route 6 and 1745. Good job with that. Well, good job with that. You're a natural born holder, kid, right? It's kid's natural. So be proactive, right? We talked about this in the beginning. Have the plan ready to get them out of the hold, right? Because the notice is going to come as quick as possible, right? The airport authority or whoever is cleaning up the runway, getting this disabled aircraft off the runway is going to do it as soon as it's safe, but they know that there are aircraft inbound that are holding or at least being delayed. So the reaction is going to have to be met with expediency. So, and again, be proactive. JetBlue 733 is easy, but United 1996 different. The clearance might be of a different color, right? It's a different animal. But let's see how all this sounds. So let's go to the sector again. Okay, see you there. Okay, so here we are back at the sector. The strips are up to date. The data tags are up to date. Very good. Boom. Here's what we want to do. United 1996. Expect further clearance via direct Idaho, Route 6, San Juan, maintain 2000. Now, why did we do that? Because we're saying, hey, United 1996, I know that you found Yankee 290 Beano Route 6 San Juan. Your new routing, like we're almost 99.99% sure the routing after all this is said and done is going to be a different, right? So expect further clearance, right? Via direct Idaho Route 6 San Juan. So we're going to just give you this to say, hey, this is probably what's going to happen when all this holding is said and done. You're going to be placed on Route 6 and we're into San Juan. So very simple. You get the read back from there. And JetBlue 733s goes as follows. JetBlue 733 expect further clearance via direct Beano, direct San Juan Airport, maintain 1000. Very good. Now, if you look at this section under Chapter 4, Section 6, it does say to put the altitude somewhere in there, right? If it's other than the altitude they're currently at. So in the spirit of that, it was a good example to show you this because it shows where to put the altitude information, right? Very good. Now, remember, we could have given this information in the initial clearance, right? We could have said, hey, holding instructions and then expect further clearance via this, but we didn't want to do that. Where this is useful is, and where it shows up the most is, say this was not a disabled aircraft on the runway, but some kind of runway safety check. Maybe the situation was runway 10 is closed, and maybe runway 8 just needed a simple FOD check, right? And it could take long if they found some metal particles or some kind of debris, or it could have been very fast. Well, we don't know that. But if you remember, I mentioned something about institutional knowledge, and sometimes you're able to approximate in your mind how long this will take. The 7110 offers you the provision not to have to give complex holding instructions or even abbreviated holding instructions, right? You can give a short range clearance, aka a paper stop, right? We could have said JetBlue 733 cleared to Beano intersection, no delay expected. Or United 1996, clear direct Idaho, and they would have to look it up. So you might want to do, United 96 clear direct Idaho, India Delta Alpha Hotel Oscar, no delay expected. And then you would give this information because you are not expecting holding to occur, right? You know the nature of the problem that may cause a slight delay, but you also don't want these aircraft to think they have a full, head-on clearance into San Juan. No, you stop the clearance. You stop United 1996 forward progress at Idaho. You stop JetBlue 733's forward progress at Bino. And they don't, without further clearance from you, they are not going to progress that fix. Now remember the rule of 5, right? Give me 5. At 5 minutes prior to the fix, the pilot's probably going to ask, hey, do you want us to hold here? Like, what's going on? Or you should be proactive. And if holding does become imminent, right, it's going to occur, give the hold instructions prior to 5 minutes. But just remember, if you don't think, or maybe there's a higher authority that says, hey, it's not going to be too long, just give these guys short range clearances, that's what you'll do. Just remember, no delay expected. Read that part. Chapter 4, Section 6, it has pretty good examples as well to describe this situation. So good job with that. Let's keep moving. Okay, everybody. Well, if you're wondering where I went, I had to take my little preview box of yours truly out because Blue 733 happens to be in the southeast corner where the camera is, where I usually am. So don't worry, I think I know where I'm here, just like the voice of Oz. So pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. So here we go with this. We're back at the sector. The strips are up to date. The data tag is up to date. And we see we move forward maybe 10, 12 minutes into the future, right? We see Blue 733 is establishing the hold, turning, making their way down the 1000. Yeah, 1996 is the same way, southeastbound descending to 2000. Everything is wonderful, and well, everything is wonderful as can be, right? We're still holding here, and luckily we have aircraft right now, but we would see a traffic jam here if we had many more aircraft in the small confines of Sector 6. No big deal. We get this very pleasant and wonderful, refreshing announcement. Runway clear, send them in. Perfect. So here we go. Let's follow through with that. JetBlue 733, turn right, direct San Juan Airport, maintain 1000. Perfect. Very simple. And look at that. You put the time they're going to leave the hold in, right? In box 18. And remember, we have that giant V cleared over the fix now. That's the strip marking and the phraseology, right? That's quick phraseology, right? No need to repeat that entire they expected after Bino, right? You can just say right direct San Juan, right? That's just as valid as clearance as any. So good job with that. And United 1996 cleared to the San Juan Airport via direct Bino, direct San Juan Airport, cross Bino at 1000 at 250 knots. And yet again, time leaving the hold, 1730, crossed out 120, and we gave our crossing restriction there and the V. Perfect. You see what we did there? We take notation of what time they left the hold, so we can pretend that United 1996 was on a leg where they're able to leave the hold. They don't have to make any weird turns. Same thing with JetBlue. We can assume that they're going to follow our instructions to turn right, and that turn right heading just cleared them out of whatever hold, whatever phase of the holding pattern they were in. So that's good. Short, simple, and with a purpose, right? And the strip marking is done well. The phraseology was done well. And here we are just learning just like no other, okay? See you at the next slide. Well, hey, look at me. I'm back where I belong, back in my little box in the southeast corner of the presentation. So I hope you didn't miss me. It's a joke. I wasn't gone for very long at all. So the bulleted list and some pretty potent points at that. So keep track of and accordingly update EFC times, right? If that disabled aircraft took a long time to clear or even longer time from present time and we are getting close to our EFCs, we have to update those. Why? EFCs, it isn't just a service that we just spout out of the time saying, hey, guess what? I'm going to get back to you around this time and hopefully I have some good news for you. No, it's a lot deeper than that. We've talked about this before. Air traffic control, the phraseology, everything is said with conviction and with a purpose, right? We know that if we were to lose communications with the aircraft, right, radio failure with United 1996 or JetBlue 733, well, lost comm procedures, right, lost communication procedures cover what the aircraft is supposed to do if they lost communications with air traffic control in a holding pattern, right? So It's beautiful. It's one of those amazing things where you do it all the time, right? You give holding clearances all the time, but it's also a contingency plan that you're giving them, right? You're giving them a clearance not only to participate in the holding pattern because you need them to because of the disabled aircraft, but guess what? If they lose touch with you, they got a backup plan and it's well structured and it's to be expected and you can anticipate them following through with that until they get in touch with you. So that's the very interesting thing about it. It's really cool, actually. So just like when you give an approach clearance, you're also giving the aircraft the clearance to execute a missed approach. Well, this is the same thing. You are giving them procedural items to get in touch with you if they lose you. So pretty cool point there. If multiple aircraft are holding, create a special posting area to segregate holding traffic. Perfect. Now, this doesn't always happen for San Juan, but sometimes it does. But this happens for the airport more often than not, the primary airport, Princess Juliana, Tango November Charlie Mike. Now, when Juliana closes a door, we never get far enough notice, right? It requires a coordination effort of gargantuan proportions. The D side has to start coordinating accordingly. You have two different sectors that are feeding traffic flows into that airport, right? Sector 4, Sector 2, sometimes Sector 8. It could be a lot of aircraft, and you definitely have to keep track of the aircraft who arrived in the holding pattern first because of this first come, first serve. You have to keep track of who actually has a slot time if they're doing slots that particular day. I'm talking about the week of Christmas, New Year's, right? That week in between is when we really pull out these procedures. Also, another thing why it's good to have your holding aircraft segregated because remember what I mentioned before, just in case if not they're not able to land the Juliana Airport, guess what you should do as a D side or even as an R side requested? Immediately request their alternate landing airport, their ALA, Field 12, and FDIO, right? If you F full route, CID 123 followed by 1, 2, and hit enter, you are going to get back their filed alternate airport, which they should have one. So chances are it's going to be an airport close to Juliana. Maybe it's St. Croix, St. Thomas. Maybe it's CJ Lloyd, right? Maybe it's BC Bird, right? But it's good to know because you can even further anticipate what the aircraft will need to do, and you can make a plan to make that happen. You're like, okay, so I know if Juliana says, hey, this guy, our holding time is 2 hours. No aircraft can land within 2 hours. Well, guess what? Chances are most aircraft are not going to want to hold for 2 hours. They're going to want to go to their alternate. And guess what? If you're ahead of the game and you know their alternate, you are ready to input that information into the NAS, coordinate with your supervisor, so they can coordinate with the affected facilities, right? So just keep that in mind. It's always good practice when you start holding and that delay starts to increase, right? It's just not no normal delay. Like maybe you've given an EFC time maybe once, maybe twice, and you're like, okay, this is not good. Now it's time to start looking beyond what's going to take place because this aircraft can't hold forever, right? The joke about air traffic control, we haven't left one up there yet. Well, yeah, they can't stay up there for very long. So, which leads to the next point. Address each aircraft or make a blanket transmission to update them on whatever issue is causing the holding, right? This is good for when you have multiple aircraft and you can't address them all at the same time. And well, you could do that. Or if you are looking at a situation where you are giving the aircraft an update on their EFC times, right? Respectively, what time their EFC time is. Maybe you have maybe 2, 3, 4 aircraft. You're going to go aircraft by aircraft saying, hey, your new FC is this, your new FC is this. But here's good phraseology here. Aircraft ID, so let's just pretend, 1996, delay indefinite, disabled aircraft on active, expect further clearance at 1800, time now 1741, 1/4. So remember, you can keep them in the loop using official phraseology while completing this plan, right? Or at least assembling a plan beyond the hold, right? Because the holding is only going to go for so long, right? If you study what pilots are supposed to do, whether it's a company or a charter or just a private aircraft, how much fuel they're supposed to have on board to hold and all that stuff. So remember, all those factors are at play. There's a lot of factors at play. And you have to be on top of that and be ready to react to whatever response you get from these pilots when you're updating the EFCs, right? and giving them, new EFCs too, how they're going to react to that. So it's going to be in your best interest to have all information in front of you, right? Information is power. Well, by God, it surely is at this point. So good job with that. It was a little brief. It was simplified, but if you got these fundamentals down pat and you follow just the rules of first come, first served, separation, and phraseology, then you can have 1 or 10 aircraft holding, and it will cause you the least amount of grief as possible. Just like with weather, holding sucks, right? You have so much more to babysit, right? We didn't even cover how you're going to have to watch your holding patterns, right? Make sure that you're not sending en route aircraft through your holding pattern airspace, right? Make sure they're at an altitude that is amply below and getting aircraft above. Maybe that'd be a great video for a different day. So maybe we'll cover that. But just remember, you're going to make the best out of this adverse situation. So good job with that, and I'll see you at the send-off. Well, hey, who remembers these guys from End of the World, right? About that time, the whole chat. Righto. A little whimsical, nostalgic way to end the presentation. Really proud of you guys following along, conceptualizing a plan, and putting forth your effort to learning the phraseology, the strip marking, following through, visualizing the positive outcome of your plan. Right now, we only had 2 aircraft today dealing with the San Juan airport, but what we learned today, right, holding aircraft, stopping the forward progress of moving aircraft in the NAS, right, you can apply that to any of the areas that we deal with, terminal areas, right? Punta Cana, San Juan, Borinquen, Princess Juliana, VC Bird, St. Kitts, right? Just different facilities with slight different looks to it, right? Their locations of where you might hold these aircraft, but you are armed with the baseline fundamental knowledge, right? It is a tool in your tool belt that you will use with the other tools you learn, right? Holding aircraft, IFR Chapter 4, combine that with what you learned in Chapter 5 with radar. Now you have a way to protect holding pattern airspace from en route aircraft, other aircraft descending and climbing, right? You just roll with it, right? You apply what we learned today, and you just make sure you apply other things that encourage positive separation around it, right? It may seem complex at first, but you'll get so much better exponentially as you train and as you apply these principles, right? So they're not isolated, right? It's not like, oh, I have to hold aircraft now and then that's it. No, you're gonna have to combine a little bit of, maybe Chapter 5, Chapter 2, right, general, and then maybe some non-radar stuff there, right? If you're dealing with a foreign facility, so we go to Chapter 6. So just remember, you're going to apply this with other things, but it's good to have this in your tool belt, and it's good to have it down pat. So like I said, real proud of you guys. I hope you guys had a great time. I know I sure did. We made this very hard to digest pill sometimes because holding does suck, just like the weather, but guess what? You are at least armed now to deal with it, to have the best possible outcome you can have, rather. So wonderful job. So just remember, keep your attitude just like your separation, positive. I'm Steve, and I will see you at the next presentation. All right, guys, bye now.